Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships. Hello, we are back with the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Hello, Poppy. Welcome back.
How are you?
Well, it's cool girl summer for me this summer. Tried to go to the beach for Memorial Day, and it rained every single day except for 20 minutes the day before we left. And it was funny to me because I was just like, in my 20s, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to go down. It was bike weekend, just sun for days. And now that I'm, a little bit older and wiser and, going to the beach to relax, it was sort of like, how appropriate.
Man, it sounds like that Charlotte weather's following you around, man, or North Carolina weather.
Yes. I don't know, the whole system, with those wildfires in Canada. I wonder if that has something to do with it. But, it got us to thinking tonight about dating, of course, as the show wants to do, and girl and bro codes. So, something about not being able to go out and, glisten in the sun gets you to thinking about some stuff. And I thought this was a great idea when you brought it up because, I don't know if anybody's had this experience, but I certainly have, about where your line in the sand is with your boundaries around dating. And when it comes to your friends, whether, your ex's friends, or whether it's your own group, whether it's your girl or guy friends, what is it that is in your code as far as what you will and won't do? So I have to ask you first out, Poppy, who are you not willing to date and why, as far as, exes, friends, whatever?
Well, I can tell you that obviously I've had a lot of groups of friends and a lot of friends of different backgrounds, friends from high school, new friends, old friends. And I can tell you that there's certain codes that are consistent almost across the board when it comes to men for the most part.
I think so.
I believe
I'm gonna bust
so.
that myth.
All right, well, we're about to get into it. At least in my circles, with the guys that I'm close with, right? When you call somebody a bro, that means that this guy is a close friend, basically. Not a coworker or acquaintance, right? But like a close friend or somebody that, the way I tell my friends, if I would fight for you, if I would be willing to throw a punch or take a punch for you, you're my bro. You understand?
Okay. So how big is that circle, would you say? Just to get a clear example of, a boundary. You might be on or, off one or two, three or four, but
I mean, I would say, my circle's probably, there's probably, I don't know, I'd say maybe 15 to 20 people that I, could say, hey, I could
inner circle.
That are part of my inner circle. Yes.
Okay. That's fair.
And we're going to jump into this, and obviously this is in no order, but this one to me stood out just from, conversations that I've had with some of my buddies and friends, and just from the research that I did. Messing with exes. So ex-girlfriends and ex-wives, that is like bro code number one, basically. Like that's a no-go for a lot of guys. And if a guy is willing to do that, it kind of tells you a lot about himself and his character, in my opinion. And I've actually been in that situation. And so out of high school, this was back when I was still using AOL Messenger.
Oh wow, that's a
yeah.
I do still have friends
a blast from the
AOL.
past. This is a blast from the past. But when I was like freshly out of high school, a few years after I had graduated, one of my close buddies his ex-girlfriend added me on AOL Messenger, and just she started conversation. I just thought it was innocent, but then she took a shot, and I told her I respectfully declined because I can't do that to my friend, basically.
Okay. Okay. Very
But
honorable of you.
she was definitely trying to get together, and she took her shot, and I said, look, I can't do that. I'm not going to say who, because to this day I've never told this person this story, my buddy, and he's not going to know.
Yeah, we'll leave his name unmentioned out of the 20 in the circle.
He
They're
will
all
he
they're all
will
going
be
through wondering now.
he will go unmentioned. But yeah, I respectfully decline, and basically I told her that, like, look, that just to me doesn't feel right. He's a good friend of mine, and we're very close, and I just don't think that's right. And plus, in the back of my mind, I felt that there was maybe some hidden agenda with this as well, maybe trying to stick it to him, or maybe trying to rub it in his face, so to speak, or being petty. So there's also that element as well. So I just didn't want to get caught up in any of that drama. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say, I got caught up in that, but not of my own making. So, um, in this particular situation, someone I had dated previously, um, kind of circled back in my life after I got divorced. Well, I did not know that this person and my ex had been friends in college, because back then we didn't have social media.
right,
And I went in the early '90s, so there were no cell phones. So once we broke up after high school and whatnot, then there was no contact.
correct,
And when this person circled back in my life, after my marriage ended, they had a real grudge about me having married who I married, because apparently they had been friends, but I had no knowledge of it. And so that was one time where I felt like I got in a situation that really should have been between them, as opposed to somebody having hard feelings with me. Because I was like, how was I supposed to know that?
no,
And it
I
never
agree with
came
you.
up, because it's like, and that's where I think if the question gets raised, like, at what point and I don't know how they considered each other in terms of friendship, how close or whatever. It might have been closer at one time, and then you know people go their separate ways after your time in school. So you don't always stay close to the same people move in and out of your life, apparently.
Agreed.
But is there ever like a time limit on it being acceptable to date an ex? Now, I'm thinking about all my girlfriends right now. My circle is not as big as yours as far as how many people are in it, but I think about relatives too in that sense as well. Like, I would not date relatives exes or friends exes either, just because I just think it's too messy, too much. Typically, if you've heard everything that went wrong with them, if you knew about them at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have any knowledge of y'all having a relationship, there was somebody I was interested in and discovered he had dated, a really good friend of mine. And once I found that out, I just I cut ties, because I was just like, nope, you talk to one of my girls, not going to do that, because she means more to me than, you know, any potential that this may have. There's nothing here, and I'm not going to destroy a good relationship over, you know, because no matter what people say, like, things may be over in that relationship, but you had feelings for that person, and people can still be very territorial around, who they used to date,
Yeah,
as
and on
far
top of
as that
that,
goes.
it can manifest some tension, some ill will, And you know, it could seem like you're trying to rub it in their face on top of that. So
Mm-hmm. It's
there's
just
a
it's
lot of
messy.
yeah, it's just got drama written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
like it's more often than not, that sort of stuff rarely goes smoothly. Another one on my list, because I have a big list
Mm-hmm.
of codes that men kind of tend to, you know, honor and consider, you know, with close friends. Another is don't mess with the immediate family, and obviously that would include, you know, aunts, mothers, sisters. Like that's just it's just that's a no-fly zone in my opinion and
Mm-hmm.
in my circle. Um, and you know, there's a few exceptions, right? Like because I know my friends pretty well, there's a couple that I would be like, you know what, you would be great because my cousin, she grew up with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for like the last 4 or 5 years of middle school and high school combined, my cousin, my mom basically took in my cousin, so she was like a sister to me, and we're still pretty close. And you know, we always celebrate holidays together and all that. Anyways, I had a couple of my buddies that were interested in her, and they
Mm-hmm.
asked me about her, and you know, I respected that they at least approached me and inquired about it and didn't do it behind my back. Does that make sense?
Right, right. They came to you as a, real friend and real men, in my opinion,
Yes.
by at least getting your opinion about how would you feel. And
Yes.
to me that's honorable in so many ways because they're taking into account your feelings, but they're being honest about their own. Sometimes
Yes. And
people
I
go
thought that was
back
really
door.
cool.
Hmm.
And you know, I knew them both. It was two friends of mine that kind of were curious about my cousin, and obviously she wasn't my blood sister, but I saw her like a sister. But I told him, look, I don't, I'm cool with it, but you better not be fucking around. Like if you're really
Yeah,
interested in her, then be interested in her. But if you're just trying to play games or you're just trying to get your dick wet, for lack of a better term, then I don't want you doing that with my family. Straight
right.
up, like that's what I said.
Well,
Now,
maybe
if
it
you
shouldn't be with
really,
anybody's
if
family, but
but if you have genuine intentions, then I was like, okay, then I'm
Mhm.
not going to get in the way of that if you have genuine intentions. But if you're just trying to have fun, then get the fuck out of here with that because I don't want you doing that to my family because
Yeah, that'll
you
really
know
create some tension right there. That you come
it
in.
can create tension,
Yeah,
and then on top of that, you know, my mom's going to be like, yo, why did so and so do this to her, you know, and then I'm the one that's got to be getting, you know, pulled into these
yeah,
conversations.
right.
So that's
It's messy.
definitely another
Hmm.
one, you know, immediate family, obviously.
Hmm.
Also, another one that a lot of guys in their circle kind of, you know, keep in the back of their mind is don't cock block and be a wingman. Do you know
Hmm.
what that is?
Well, I do. Yeah, I
Like if we
definitely.
go out at a bar
Yeah.
and you know we start talking to a group of girls and you know one of the girls seems to be more you know, gravitating to one of the guys, then you
Hmm.
know, let that play out and see what happens. You know.
Okay, but does that count after maybe she shoots down the one that she thought she might be interested in, and then sees that you were a better choice? Then can you move forward in that scenario because you didn't really have a relationship. You're
Oh
just
yeah,
out.
that's different because if we're hanging out at a social house and we're having beers and we run into a group of women, it's pretty much you know, hey, you're trying your luck and that's just going to kind of work itself out on its own, but you can't call you know dibs on a woman you don't know, like you haven't even like been with her or dated her or anything like that. That's just that kind of stuff
Okay.
just kind of manifest on its own. So yeah, that aspect, the
All's
main
fair in
thing,
love and war, right? And that.
right, I mean
Yeah.
at that
Mhm.
point you know you got to read the tea leaves, right? Like if you see that hey she's into my buddy, then I'm going to try to you know kind of be an assist man and try to, you know, not get in the way of
Mhm.
whatever, you know, chemistry they might have or whatever interest they might have.
Yeah.
If anything, I'll be like, oh yeah, you guys should go out, or I'll say, especially
Yeah,
like,
pump him
for
up a
example,
little bit. Mm-hmm.
exactly, like my buddy Dan, right? You met Dan.
Mm-hmm.
He's a personal trainer. He's been on the show.
Yeah.
So whenever I see that a girl seems to be, maybe curious about him or interested, I'm always like, yeah, he's a personal trainer. You should, talk to him about that or whatever. Like I try to, kind of, be an assist man, be a wingman,
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's kind of the mentality, right? But yeah, like you can't really call ownership unless there is a caveat to this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we're going out as a group, right? And I bring a date, then obviously that goes without saying that,
Okay.
you guys don't need to be up on my date like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, because in that case, you did know her previously, even if it's a first date. Um,
I don't give a damn
so
what date it is. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if
Well,
as
I'm
long as
just
it's,
saying,
as long
yeah,
as it's platonic and innocent, okay, cool. But if I get the sense that you're, taking away too much
yeah,
attention or you're being a little too
extra.
friendly, then yeah, I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna be like, yo, you chill out, dog. You need to back up, man. I'm on a date here. I'm trying
Right.
to
This
get to
isn't
know
just a
her.
casual acquaintance we all met at the same time. That's what I mean. Like you didn't just walk into the scene and meet her like they did for the first time. Like you already knew this girl because you brought her, not I just met her out here in public.
Right. Yeah, that's a different
Mm-hmm.
dynamic. If we go to, a festival and we run into a group of women, then hey, it's fair
Fair
game.
game. Right.
But
Exactly.
if I bring a date around my group of friends, then yeah, but then I've never had any issues. Most of my buddies they understand that hey, if you bring a date, then
Right.
obviously that's your date.
Well, let's take that same scenario though. Like for instance, um, and does this go against the code? We're not talking about dating, but let's say we do meet a group out, my friends and yours go out and everybody meets up. And, and this is women for you right here. We start talking about, oh, I like that one in the such and such, because the eyes choose first sometimes,
Right.
and then you decide you're going to switch gears. Like, there are some women who will stake claim to somebody and they do expect their girlfriends to fall back if I say to the rest of the group, or for instance, I say to the rest of the group, I like this one, then my expectation is that everybody else will rearrange and fall back. It's not quite democratic as I think men can be sometimes, where it's just like the best game wins. So sometimes that can be a little tricky, even as a female, at least in my experience, where you almost do stake a claim on the one that you're interested in, and then everybody else has to, bow down or back up or whatever. So I don't
Oh
know.
yeah,
Is it
absolutely. Yeah,
like
I
that
mean, I
for
think
men? Like, do y'all have the
there's definitely
similar
some of that.
experience?
But the caveat with that is, are you genuinely interested in her, or you're just trying to get your rocks off? Because if you're genuinely interested in her, then okay, I'm gonna take a fall back and I'm gonna let you do what you got to do and see if
Hmm.
there's anything there, if there's any chemistry. Now, if you're just trying to have fun, then it's a little bit different, because then it's like, hey, like we said, right, it's fair game basically.
Okay. Okay.
But
Because,
if
yeah.
there's genuine, legitimate interest, then okay, then at that point you do have to be respectful and mindful of that. And a matter of fact, I have an example. When I was in 8th grade, I got asked out
Hmm.
to the 8th grade dance by my buddy's crush.
Oh,
This was back in 8th grade at McClintock Middle School. This
whoever you
girl
are,
asked me
girl,
to
you
go to
just,
the dance. She asked me to go to the dance with her, and I knew my boy
yeah,
was head over heels over her.
right.
And I did not go. I declined her invitation
Oh, so much
because I couldn't do
heartbreak
that
would
to
have been
him. I
all
could not do that
around.
to him, even though she wasn't into him like that.
Yeah,
To me, that would have been um, messed up. And I
yeah.
feel that it would have kind of been a bit of a betrayal for me to go out with
Hmm.
her to the dance, knowing damn well that he had already expressed to our friend circle that he was very much into her. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. I kind of had a betrayal of that nature. Um, Same thing, but I was in seventh grade. He was in eighth grade, and we had been talking and everything. And um, a friend knew that I liked him,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I caught him dancing with some girl, and he was, not just dancing. He was, you know, then it was some raunchy dancing at the dance going on, and I was
Right.
just devastated. And then, this friend kind of came behind, and not too many weeks after our breakup, kind of scooped him up. And I just always felt like, why would you do that? Like, even though we had broken and you knew that I was through because I caught him with somebody, being extremely inappropriate, in my opinion, even in seventh grade. Um, it'd been different. He'd been dancing with her and they were like a few feet apart, but it was not like that.
Right.
And then, my friend came through and just, you know, s- scoops him up and decides she's going to, give it a try with him. And, there was really a lot of that in junior high. And so I guess to see that play out as an adult, I really do think, what juvenile behavior, like that you're not emotionally intelligent enough to know that somebody could still possibly have feelings unresolved, or, even feel like, I thought we were close. Why would you hurt me this way by engaging with this person?
Yeah, and that's
Not
why
just
I
being
did not.
friends.
Exactly. So I valued my friendship with Sean. That was his name. I'm not going to say his last name, but that was
Hmm.
his. That was my friend's name. He was also my neighbor. We lived in the same neighborhood. We played basketball together. I knew his mom. I knew his siblings.
Hmm.
I've been to his house, spent the
Real
night.
tight.
So,
Hmm.
so I knew him very, very well, and I just could not do that to him. Um, and at the end of the day, we were in eighth grade and it was just a dance. So I'm not saying that she was like trying to be my girlfriend or anything, but I know that would have hurt him. I know
Yes.
that because he was that much into her. Like
Hmm.
he really had a crush on her.
Wow.
So I just said, nah, I'm sorry, I can't, and I told her, I told her pretty much like, look, my boy Sean really has a crush on you. And I know that if I did that to that, if I went with you to that dance and Sean saw that, it would really, hurt him and probably hurt our friendship. And I
Yeah.
just can't do that. I'm sorry. Even though, even though I was very tempted because the young lady was very attractive, and it would have
But
been
yeah,
fun. But I was like, I can't do that to Sean. So I took
good
a
for
hard pass
you.
on that. Yeah, I mean, when
Well,
it comes to that stuff, I definitely have principles and standards that I like to follow when it comes to that. And he was a good friend. Now,
yeah.
if he was a shitty friend, we might be having a different conversation. But then
That's so
again,
hilarious.
I don't like to keep shitty friends close anyways. But he was a close friend of mine, and like I said,
Absolutely.
I knew his family, and I just couldn't do that to him, even in eighth grade.
Right.
Another one that's kind of a guide code is if we have guys night and we're out, or if we're out at a party or social
Hmm.
event, you don't throw shade at your buddy.
Ooh, I used to see that with one of my ex's friends group, and I
Like
thought,
you
mm,
can joke around and you can kind of bust chops, right?
no,
But
but trying to
like,
make a guy look bad in front of women, to me,
right,
that
yeah,
is like,
but there's a
mm,
certain line that you don't cross, and you have to be mindful of that. And that's kind of going back to the other bro code where we're talking about, hey, be a wingman and be an assist man. Like
absolutely.
it kind of plays into that.
I think so. And to me, like, anytime you got to do character assassination, which is what I consider that to be, to make yourself look good to somebody, like, to
Right.
me, that only lowers who you are in my sight as a woman. Like, men who do that, excuse the expression, but that really is a bitch move to me. I think you don't have um integrity doing that, and you really are telling me a lot about what you think about loyalty. Because if you would throw your guy friend under the bus that you've known forever, how will you treat me when the opportunity comes? to feel like you're getting something better.
Hey,
You
listen,
know?
you're preaching here. That to me, it's the principle of it that hey, you're willing to embarrass him
Mm-hmm.
for your benefit or your gain. So that tells you a lot about that individual's character. So I agree that there's deeper meaning to this than just on the
Mm-hmm.
surface level of hey, you were just cracking jokes and being a wise ass. And don't get me wrong, we'll crack jokes, but
Yeah,
then
but
we keep it moving.
you can tell the difference, like cracking jokes with each other, and again, the timing, the placement, how often that occurs. That's some very underhanded type maneuver maneuvering to me. And you can tell when there's a lot of envy around somebody who consistently does that in a group. Look, we're talking about dating, but we always talk about relationships as a whole. That's a relationship you might need to reevaluate if
Oh,
every time
absolutely.
y'all go out, there's somebody in your group who always wants to seem to find the worst about you to say in front of people when y'all are meeting new people, meeting new women, or mates potentially. Because I'm just like, why would you say that? Why would you do that? And that's your friend, if that's really your friend.
Oh yeah, and listen,
So
sometimes what's funny, my mother told me, she said, I remember my mom telling me a long time ago when I was young, she said, son, don't be out putting your personal business on social media because not everybody's going to be happy with your success.
that part, that's right. That's
And
right. Mama Bear is on it.
the more people see that you have, the more they want to take away from you.
Right. And sometimes you just need to move in silence. And if you're really interested in somebody, really being out with the group, I mean, you can meet people how you meet people, but to be out in a group trying to date consistently is probably not the best way to not the best way to do it. Like having your friend send a message or talking to somebody, like who's really doing that. It's like women we do not want to date the man who is having his friend send a message to us.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't
you're
think
not
that.
ready
No.
for a woman. Just
Yeah,
saying.
I don't think that's a good fit. But
No.
yeah, like being mindful of that. I mean, it's okay, right, to tease and joke around, but just don't make it personal and don't attack a person, especially when you're meeting somebody new. Because let's not kid ourselves. First impressions are everlasting, and when a person who barely knows you hears those kind of things,
Hmm.
that can take them back. They can be like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to talk to this
Right.
guy, or I don't know if I want to even give this guy my number." Like it can really have an impact.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
that's
our
definitely a cool.
listeners, Jorge, I don't mean to cut you off. I just know we're moving forward here, but Heidi Jones said something because I really want to ask you about this. Heidi Jones said, "Is this where your friends lie for you? I don't have the memory for that. I can't successfully lie on my own behalf." You responded, Heidi Jones, more so the unspoken norms or golden rules between close friends. And I replied, Heidi Jones, those are legitimate boundaries, though. So in the bro code, girl code, would you lie for a friend if you knew he was out doing dirt on his girlfriend or wife or
Oh,
mate?
oh
Like,
man.
is that a part of the code?
It is. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's definitely a part of the code. The one exception is this, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the sources that I used was Steve Harvey,
Mm-hmm.
and he would Steve Harvey on YouTube, and they had like a little clip talking about breaking the bro code, and I agree with him, and he literally said it's okay to break the bro code as last resort, and as long as it doesn't bring dirt to my home or to my family. Does that make sense?
Okay, like in what case then? So how are you
So, for
breaking the
example,
bro
right, if a
code?
buddy told me, right, if a
Mm-hmm.
buddy was trying to get me to lie, but now I got a lot of my wife as well, if I was married, right,
Oh, gotcha,
then at
gotcha,
that
gotcha.
point, like, okay, you're too deep into this.
Gotcha. Yeah,
This
I
is
might
too
lie to
much.
your wife, but I'm not lying to mine.
Right, yeah, because now you're bringing your drama, or not. It doesn't even have to be like a
Mm-hmm.
dating. It could be like, hey, maybe he did something illegal,
Okay.
and he's
Mm-hmm.
telling me, hey, man, I need you as an alibi. No, because you about to affect me, my bottom line, and my family. So
Okay,
I
gotcha.
can't
Uh-huh.
do that. Like, what if he was like, on some stalker shit, and now he's trying to use me as an alibi?
Yeah.
and that alibi could blow up and then come and, affect
Right.
me and
Bite
my
you.
family.
Hmm.
I'm not going to do that. So,
Okay.
listen, part of bro code is sometimes you got to check them too. You got to call their bullshit out. Be like, hey man, you're in the wrong here. You should, like,
Hmm.
I've done that before with friends where I'm like, hey, you're not driving, dog. You're fucked up. You can either Uber, or you can stay at my house, or I'll drive, or you can ride
Hmm.
with me, but you're not driving because you're too fucked up to drive. And
Gotcha.
then, and
Gotcha.
then you're going to put me
Very
in the
responsible.
situation where I have to have a conversation with your family, and I don't want that. So it's just easier for you to not
Hmm.
drive drunk or just to crash on my couch, and we live to see another day. So sometimes you got to check
Okay.
your homeboy and be like, hey man.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
basically, to simplify it, right?
Hmm.
As long as it's not going to affect myself personally and my family, then I'll consider it depending on the circumstances, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
All right, sounds like a winner. Margot Payne says, I actually can't stand bro code because if I dated a dude for let's say 2 or 3 months, but it wasn't super serious, we just realized we weren't right for each other. There should be no reason why I couldn't date a friend who was better suited for me. I rarely have had breakups because I don't perpetuate things that aren't going to work out. um my response back was, Margot Payne, I have had mixed feelings around dating friends. If I was aware of it, I wouldn't, but if I didn't know, that's a conversation you and your bro should have had. Your response, of course, it can definitely get tricky, but as they say, the truth always comes to light. And again, I think those critical conversations, like really being able to communicate freely with your friends, like your friends should know the good, bad, and ugly, as well as your shining star qualities, to really, I think, be in a friendship that's meaningful. And so sometimes, like having those conversations around how you really feel about, maybe we didn't date and move forward seriously, but if you dated for 2 or 3 months, but you did have feelings, and the breakup might have been mutual, but you still had some lingering feelings, like I think that needs to be out there so that your friends don't assume that you didn't, like the person didn't mean anything to you. Even with females, female friends or whatever, I feel like you can't expect your friends to read your mind all the time, because
Right.
if you acted like, you were nonchalant about this relationship, you really didn't care, or you said you didn't care, you can't just assume, you know friends are like, "Oh, I wouldn't date him anyway." Well, what if they had feelings for him and stepped back, and then
Right.
you tried it, but it didn't go anywhere? Like honestly, that's one of those times where I feel like as we mature, we're all trying to find the right person, and blocking your friends from dating somebody that they could actually find happiness with if it's really serious, and you weren't at all serious about the person. I think that's a place with some wiggle room. Just,
Oh,
I'm just,
oh yeah, absolutely. Listen,
personally.
I've had situations like that. I remember vividly. Actually, we were in South End with a group of friends. He was with another woman on a
Hmm.
date, right? And he brought her around our group, and we were all in South End partying, and we ran into another girl and her friend, and he, um, how can I say this? Flirted with her for a little bit,
Hmm.
and she started talking to me because obviously she realized she couldn't talk to him because he already had a date. So he was already
Hmm.
kind of spoken for, at least for that night.
Hmm.
So it made me wonder, okay, is she talking to me because she's trying to make him feel some kind of way? Or is this like genuine? So while me and her were communicating and, conversing, I texted him and I said, hey, is it cool if is it cool if I, get her number? Are you okay with that? Because I know that they had spent some time together, but they weren't
Hmm.
boyfriend and girlfriend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know they went out a few times though, and I know some stuff went down. Let's just say that. Um, but even then, I still was respectful enough to text and ask, "Hey, is it cool if I ask the number if it presents itself?" Because even then, at that point, I did not know if she was going to give me the number, and she did. So she gave it to me, and then, but I didn't ask for it until he told me that it was cool, and obviously he was
Hmm.
with another woman anyway, so it was more of a formality, because
Yeah.
whatever they had was all over and done with, and it was kind of like a flame kind of thing. It wasn't anything serious. They weren't,
Mm-hmm.
ex-boyfriend and girlfriend or ex-wife or whatever, or fiance
Right.
or any of that stuff. It was very light and casual, if you catch my drift.
Well, even with light and casual, though, do you feel like there are some people that are off limits?
I mean, I think it's, to
If
me,
it was
and
just physical,
to me, and with buddies, the best practice for guys that I'm close with, right? Guys that I consider
Mm-hmm.
my friends, the
Mm-hmm.
best practice that I like to, try to set is to just check in and be like, hey, is it cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then if you're doing it behind somebody's back, it can look like you're being deceiving or you're deceitful, or
Mm-hmm.
that you're trying to pull a fast one. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
But if you put it on
Absolutely.
the table, at least you get to hear their side, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, we just went on a couple dates, nothing happened, all good, go for it, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, it sounds like, to wrap it up and put a bow on it, good communication is still at the bottom of, good relationships, whether it's dating exes, not dating exes, friendships. Like, if you don't open your mouth and really have a genuine conversation, then you don't know what the boundaries are in any relationship, or how far you can go. What is the line where people feel or betrayed? We got to have these conversations. And sometimes I feel like, too often, even in friendships, things happen and fall apart. And then we figure out that's where the boundary was, as opposed to, hey, before I do this, I want to talk to you and see how we stand on this issue. I think
Absolutely.
proactive is just so much easier.
It is, and it's just good just to kind of get a feel, kind of get a gauge. So I want to wrap this up with this last point, because I think this
Hmm.
one is very important, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it.
Hmm.
Um, there's been, I know this is a bro code, where if you see or if you suspect that your buddy's wife or girlfriend or significant other is behaving inappropriately or might be cheating, that is absolutely bro code action that must take place.
Yeah, but who are you going to tell? Him, or are you going to talk to her?
No, you got to talk to him. You got to let them, because listen, they might have an open relationship for all I know. So
Hmm.
you can't nowadays in 2023,
Now, you cannot assume,
you
right?
can't assume, because he might be like, yeah, she's okay. It's okay.
Okay, this is what I'm going to ask before I answer this question. What do you see? Like,
Okay,
do you
I'm gonna
see
give you
some
an example.
physicality? What are you looking at? Just somebody at dinner? Because that could be innocent.
Listen, I'm gonna give you an
Mm-hmm.
example that I actually had to deal with over Christmas, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Over the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I'm single, and I was on Bumble, playing around, playing with the matches or whatever. And as I was going through the matches, I saw one of my bros' buddies' wives on Bumble.
Ooh.
Okay, I was like, you know what? Now I'm not friends with him, but obviously I know that this is a close friend of my buddy, right?
Uh-huh.
So I reached out to him and I said, hey man, are so and so, are they still together and married? And he's like, yeah, as far as I know. And I said, oh man, well, I just saw her on Bumble.
Wow.
And I said, you might want to check in on him to see if he's okay or see if things are going all right, because they're married, and she was on Bumble, and she clearly had a profile, and she was definitely looking, to date,
Was she
from the
using
from the
was she using her name? Or did she have an alias? I'm just curious.
You know what? That I don't remember, because I don't know them well. I know my buddy well, but I did
Right.
not
I just
know
wondered.
them well. But even with that, I felt compelled to talk to my boy, so that way he can talk to his dear friend. Like
Wow.
he was like a best man at his wedding. So like they're very close. You understand? And then he told me, "Hey, you know what?
Wow.
I appreciate you telling me." And he even asked me, "Did you do a screenshot?" I was like, "You know what? I didn't. I didn't, I just kind of froze. I didn't know what to really make of it. But then the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, you know what? I probably need to talk to him about it so that he can reach out to him to kind of see what's going on. Because maybe, like I said, right, maybe they have an open relationship, or maybe they were looking for a lady friend. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, I put it on him.
Wow.
So then he took it upon himself to get on Bumble, my
Mm-hmm.
buddy, and sure enough, he found her.
Wow.
And from that point on, I never brought it up. So I don't know what happened, but I can't imagine that anything good came from that. But that is absolutely a bro code. But the thing is, when you make that kind of leap and accusation, you better be
Have some
100%
proof.
sure. And
Yeah,
you
for
better
sure.
have some proof, because if you make that kind of bold claim with nothing of substance, man, you could be starting World War III
Yeah, and I would hate
amongst
to be
people.
responsible. And honestly, um, if it was a really close friend, um, I still would have to think long and hard and pray about that thing because, again, like you say, people have their issues. Sometimes people are given hall passes. Sometimes people are out getting revenge. You just never know the whole story. And again, safety, because now people snap, and I just don't want to be responsible for getting somebody hurt or worse, because whoever they were with, um, you know, you go back and say something and your friend snaps on their person or whatever. You know what I mean? To me, that's a real hard question right there. Like, maybe I would do a soft check in on them to see, like, you guys all right? Everything okay? You sure? Like, I
It's
don't want to be the
dicey.
one.
That's why. Listen, and here's the thing. You know what's funny,
Yeah.
Nelson? At the end of the day, what happens is they'll be back, and then you end up being the bad guy. So
You
you
see what
got to
I'm
be careful
saying?
with that stuff.
They I side eyeing you because you said something about the situation, and now they still together because she took him back or he took her back or whatever. So that's why I'm just a little hesitant because people are going to do what they want to do, and is it really my job to make you find out about something of that nature?
But here's the thing.
Now,
I don't want my boy to be like, hey, did you see her on here? And then I got to be like, yeah. And then he's going to be like, well, why the hell didn't you say anything? I'm sure, listen, women will rat a dude out in a New York minute. I've seen women on Facebook posting
mm-hmm,
screenshots and be like, somebody come get, this guy, this married
yeah,
guy. So listen, women do that all the time. Guys do it. We're just more low key about it and more like, hey, this
yeah.
is what I saw, but don't bring me into this shit. You
Well, I'm
feel
gonna be
me?
like, you ask me, and I'm like, scammers out here taking people's pictures all the time. That could have been a scam. When am I bring trouble to your door? And we know it's some people that take over people's
Yeah, and
accounts
like we
using their.
said, right nowadays with
Yeah, it's too much out here.
with ethical non-monogamy, you just
You
don't
don't
know, so
know.
you don't want to jump conclusions. So that's why I was like, hey, I just said you might want to check in on them, and obviously I put it on him because once
Yeah,
I made one comment about it, and that was it, and I left it at that, and I kept moving with my life because I don't got time for that because
that
that's
part.
their
Now I can't
business.
help you if your man is running some non-ethical, non-monogamy.
Hey, and it's possible that that could have been the case. So who knows? But
Yeah,
I definitely wanted to get that in. But this was a great conversation.
absolutely, as
Um,
usual.
yeah, and it's
So
something that I think exists, even though it's not like written, but it's definitely something that group of friends do. Because I do recall that me and groups of friends have had some of these discussions on these
right.
things.
Well, and I think that's what's important. I just think don't assume that people know the rules of the relationship, whether it's friendship, dating, marriage, whatever. I think you just really need to make sure the air is clear and everybody's on the same page because, I might not have come from a family where, that's how we operate. There's some people that they'll date other family members' exes and think it's all right. Nobody
Were
bats
they
an
from West
eyelid.
Virginia?
Listen, I didn't say you dating each other's relatives, but you know what I'm saying.
That's another
But
can of worms.
that's a whole nother show for another time. Look, I dated my cousin and it didn't work
No,
out.
hell no. We ain't going down that path. Hell to the no.
Anyway, we've always had a good discussion, a good time as usual, Poppy. So if you like the show, please make sure you go to YouTube, follow our podcast there, subscribe, like, comment, and definitely send us an email at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com for more show ideas that you're interested in, issues maybe you're having in a relationship you want us to bring an expert in on. We would love to hear what you have to say. And until next time,
But
Poppy.
buenas noches, people, and thank you for your support. Please subscribe, follow us on the YouTube channel, comment, give us likes, and thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Do you have show ideas? Email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify or anchor.fm for more great shows.